Hello and welcome to another Talk TV. The police state, the elimination of the Internal Revenue Service, the TSA, the upcoming economic collapse. These are all very important subjects. You don't hear them talked about very much in the presidential dialogue. However, there's one candidate for president, Governor Gary Johnson of New Mexico. He's running on the Libertarian ticket. We had an opportunity to talk with Governor Johnson in Las Vegas. Terry Svejda of KPVM had a half-hour-long conversation with the governor, and here are some of the highlights.
We're here with Governor Gary Johnson, Libertarian candidate for president. He's in town for the Wild Fest.
The Wild Fest.
Governor, tell me a little bit about the fest and how was your trip?
Well, trip so far, you know, I've come from Chicago where I did the third, what do I want to say, the third party debates, and won the runoff, so get to partake in that again next week. But really full schedule with just, really, what are we talking about now? 10 days to go before the election, so coming down the stretch here.
That you are, and you were phenomenal in the debates, and now, my problem is, why weren't the other candidates there?
If you mean Obama and Romney, you know, I think there was a lot of content in what happened in the debate the other night, and content that's lacking. I look back 2 weeks ago, and I think about Obama and Romney debating over who's going to spend more money on Medicare, when Medicare is a program that you and I contribute $30 into, and we get a $100 benefit. By extension, we put in $30,000, we get a $100,000 benefit. That's not sustainable. That's why we're in the desperate straits that we're in. That's why we are bankrupt. We're able to print money, so the effect of all this at some point, and I think it's going to be sooner than later, is going to be a monetary collapse. And a monetary collapse, very simply, is when the dollars we have in our pocket don't buy a thing because of the accompanying inflation that's going to go along with borrowing and printing money to the tune of 43 cents out of every dollar that we are spending.
And believe, you know, anybody who goes to the grocery store nowadays can see how much inflation has already hit with the QE, you know, the constant printing of money. As president, what would you do to stop that?
Well, the only thing that we can do, and it's not the only thing, but the thing that we have to do, and I think everybody understands it, is we need to start by balancing the federal budget. We need to start by balancing revenues with expenditures, and that's the only hope that we have of fixing this. So I am promising to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013. That would be a $1.4 trillion reduction in federal spending, and that would include Medicaid, that would include Medicare, that would include military spending, something that in these debates is totally missing. It's head in the sand, it's, gee, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy, they're coming. Well, they're not coming. This is going to be difficult, but nobody wants to be a leader on this issue and say, this is what we've got to do.
Exactly. One thing I noticed, Governor Romney's talking about spending more money on the military. Do we really need to have troops in Germany and Japan and all over the world still?
Well, no, we don't. And so I would be submitting a 43% reduction in military spending. And yes, Governor Romney, he says we need to balance the budget, but I'm going to spend more money on the military and I'm going to hold Medicare intact. Well, it doesn't add up. It absolutely does not add up. And then when they start talking about the military interventions, you know, we're intervening in Syria right now. A quarter of the Syrian insurgents are jihadists. Have we not learned anything from Afghanistan until today? Apparently not.
And also Libya, when we were backing them, it was well documented that half the freedom fighters over there were Al-Qaeda.
Al-Qaeda? Why? Well, they're debating finger-pointing over who's to blame. Why did we have any embassy personnel there at all? Given that it's an area looking for targets, we present ourselves as targets. surprise, they take advantage of that. It's not showing a weakness. It's showing strength. It's showing that we understand and that we shouldn't be there.
And we'd save a lot more money if we just got out of there.
Well, when you look at a 43% reduction in military spending, you're talking about getting out of all of our military entanglements, all of our military interventions. It's reducing the military footprint. So it's the troops that you're talking about on the ground in Europe, in Japan, in South Korea. It's reducing nuclear warheads from 2,300 to 500. It's research and development. It's intelligence. It's everything. And the operative word, I think, is that we need and we have an obligation to provide ourselves with a strong national defense. But defense is the operative word, not offense and not nation building, which is what we continue to do.
Exactly. Now, let me ask you, what's the first thing you would do first day as president?
Well, I'm promising to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013. Imagine how contentious that document it will be and how detailed it needs to be. So from day one, I start assembling that detailed, a very contentious document that is going to create a raging debate and discussion in this country over how we save ourselves.
No, exactly. As governor of New Mexico, you were what I would say the veto king. Do you think that you're going to have problems with Congress as president?
Well, I think it's an exciting notion to have a libertarian president that can challenge Democrats on being good at civil liberties, something they're supposed to be good at, but they're not very good at all. And then a libertarian president challenging Republicans on being fiscally responsible, something that they're supposed to be good at, but something that they're not good at all. Another thing that came out of the debates was Ryan and Biden. Ryan says, hey, we're going to increase spending by 3%. They're going to increase spending by 4.5%. What's the big deal? Well, there is no big deal. And the point is there's no real difference between the two parties. It's just much to do about nothing. It's nibbling at the edges. It's fiddling while Rome burns.
Same business as usual, and that appears to be the problem with this country. Now, about the Federal Reserve, you did state that you wanted to eliminate the Fed. How would you go about doing that?
Well, it would have to be congressional authorization. It would have to be legislation to abolish the Federal Reserve. I would sign on to that legislation. I think that it's a rigged game. Treasury prints money. They give it to the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve gives it to the banks at 0%. Do the banks give any of that money to you or I? No. They buy treasuries in a closed loop, being able to make money by taking no risk whatsoever, and we're paying for those profits. This is a rigged game. This is the tip of the spear when it comes to crony capitalism.
Now,
I think also jobs is just a really important component also that they're kind of nibbling at the edges on. How about eliminating income tax, eliminating corporate tax, abolishing the IRS? Wow, what a notion. And replacing all that with one federal consumption tax. In this case, I'm embracing the fair tax. I think it's the answer when it comes to American exports, making our exports 23% more competitive. It's the answer to China. It's the answer to creating tens of millions of jobs in this country. Because in a zero corporate tax rate environment, if the private sector doesn't create tens of millions of jobs, then tens of millions of jobs get created, will never get created. I see manufacturing jobs flocking back to the United States worldwide. Foreign investment capital quadrupling in the next 8 years based on zero corporate tax rate.
That is an outstanding point. With that being said, we have to break for a commercial. We'll be right back with Governor Gary Johnson.
Great.